There was no storm the day I died. Just a quiet phone call. 1 minute I was Eden Moreaux, 27, heir to a multi-million-dollar logistics empire, Harvard MBA, the obedient daughter they polished like glass. The next, I was no one. Your accounts have been frozen, the banker had said with mechanical precision. We have instructions from your family trustees. Your access has been revoked. No tears, no questions, just silence. My mother didn't call. My father, usually verbose when disappointed, vanished behind an assistant's voicemail. Even my little brother Jasper, who used to say he'd never let anyone hurt me, sent a text that said, "It's for your own good. Don't make this ugly." That's when I knew. They didn't just cut me off. They erased me. And in that moment, when my last card declined at a grocery store and the cashier gave me a look I'd never forgotten, I didn't collapse. I planned. I vanished. And 2 years later, they walked into the boardroom needing a lifeline. They had no idea the woman across the table, in the tailored black suit and red lipstick, was the same one they buried. I smiled. Let's talk terms. The day it happened, I had just signed off on a boutique acquisition deal for Moreaux and Hartwell International. My assistant, Lila, brought in a congratulatory latte with Queen of Closing scrawled in Sharpie. I smiled, not knowing it was the last time I'd feel seen. At 2:43 p.m., I received a call from the legal trustee's office. "Miss Moreaux," said Mr. Atwell, his tone like polished steel, "your access to the family trust has been suspended. Effective immediately." I stared at my phone. "Excuse me? There's concern over recent financial decisions. The family board voted to suspend your access pending review." Concern? I stood. "I've increased holdings by 7% in second quarter. I tripled our market footprint in Southeast Asia. What concern?" He sighed heavily. "Personal choices, alleged misuse of funds. Your mother and stepfather. They believe you've become emotionally compromised." My hands trembled. "So I'm being punished for what? Existing without their leash?" He said nothing. The silence confirmed everything. They never wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to obey. And the moment I stopped asking for permission, they erased me. I went home to my penthouse, only to find my security access revoked. The doorman, once friendly, looked at me like I was trespassing. I was escorted off the premises. No car, no cash, no apartment, just my phone half-charged and a wallet containing expired IDs and a card that beeped red when I tried to use it at a diner. "I think it's declined," said the teenage waiter, pity in his voice. I left without eating. I slept at a women's shelter the first night. Pride is a strange thing. It burns like acid when you're trying to blend in with the forgotten. My bunkmate was a former classical pianist who lost everything to a gambling husband. She offered me socks. I gave her my only bottle of perfume. We sat in the dark and talked about reinvention. "You're young," she said. "You'll come back. Just not as the woman they broke." She was right. 6 weeks later, I wasn't Eden Moreaux anymore. I was E. Morin, silent investor in 5 startup accelerators, part-time financial consultant in Singapore, ghost strategist for cash-rich but influence-poor conglomerates. With a fake identity and a brain wired for war, I built an empire from the shadows. I didn't want to make headlines. I wanted to own them. I watched from afar as Moreaux and Hartwell spiraled. Their Asia expansion collapsed without my contacts. Legal troubles leaked. Their credit lines cracked. And when global freight delays surged, they bled. 2 years later, they sent a confidential RFP for a bailout loan from a mysterious lender known only as the Meridian Group. That group was me. The boardroom was sterile, accented with dying orchids and thick tension. My mother, Cecilia Moreaux Winters, sat at the head of the table, next to her new husband, Jeffrey Winters, the man who'd seduced my trust fund into his pocket with carefully curated fraud. Jasper looked older, his eyes darker. Guilt or greed? I couldn't tell. Then I stepped in. Tailored blazer, red lipstick, unrecognizable. Only Jasper flinched. I'm here on behalf of the Meridian Group, I said smoothly. We're considering your loan request. Cecilia's eyes narrowed. You look familiar. I smiled, thin and cold. I get that a lot. 3 words rewrote the script of my existence. We need you. They didn't say it directly. People like Cecilia Moreaux and Jeffrey Winters avoided vulnerability like the plague. But desperation speaks in numbers, particularly red ones. The minute I walked into the boardroom, time slowed. Everyone stiffened. Cecilia scanned me like she was dissecting an unfamiliar predator. You represent Meridian Group? I lead them, I replied coolly. Jeffrey's lip twitched. You look familiar. I ignored it. Let's begin. They were bankrupt, though their tailored suits begged to differ. Jasper shifted in his seat, unable to meet my eyes. I let the silence draw out, until Cecilia, always the control freak, snapped. What's your offer? I smiled and placed a thick document on the table. $40 million, bridge financing, 18-month term, 24% interest, and full control over all executive decisions for the next fiscal quarter. Gasps. Jasper choked. That's extortion. I didn't flinch. It's math? Cecilia narrowed her eyes. What's the catch? I leaned in, voice like a scalpel. I pick your new interim CEO. Silence followed. And then, you want to run this company? No, I said, standing. I want to resurrect it. Unlike you, I don't bury what I build. I left them stunned. Let them stew. Desperation needs time to ferment. Jasper found me in the hallway. Eden. Wait. I turned, slowly. You knew, I said. You knew they were cutting me off. And you let them... He exhaled, jaw tight. It wasn't like that. Jeffrey, he told them you were transferring assets to some offshore shell. Said you were prepping to leave the country. That's a lie. I didn't know what to believe. You vanished. Because I had to... My voice cracked for the first time. They left me no choice. Jasper looked away. You changed? No, I said softly. I stopped begging. The following week, my selection for interim CEO shocked the board. Alea Chen, a former corporate strategist for Eastern Horizons Limited. Brilliant, cold, uncompromising. Cecilia nearly slammed her chair backward. She's not even American. She's effective, I replied. Alea stepped into the room, sharp as obsidian. My loyalty is to numbers, not bloodlines. If that's uncomfortable, get used to it. Jeffrey muttered something about outsiders. I smiled. Good. Let the poison surface early. By week's end, Alea uncovered $8.3 million in internal fraud. Guess whose name showed up on most of the reports? Jeffrey's face when confronted was pure theater. I could have sold tickets. I visited my old office, the one they stripped from me. It was cold, sterile, scrubbed of my presence. I stared at the bare desk, memories clawing at my throat. This desk belonged to Eden Moreaux, Alea said beside me. What happened to her? I smiled faintly. She died, and I buried her with the documents. From a locked briefcase, I handed her a folder. Inside were screenshots, financial trails, backdoor access logs, IP traces, all leading to accounts siphoned by Jeffrey and endorsed by Cecilia. Holy hell, Alea whispered. I told you I don't want revenge, I said. I want closure and ownership. The boardroom meeting that followed was an execution in all but name. Alea laid it out in surgical detail. Fraud, embezzlement, internal mismanagement. And here's the kicker. You nearly lost our largest Asian client due to backdoor dealings. Jeffrey turned red. You can't prove that. I stood, dropping a flash drive on the table. Try me. Cecilia paled. This is a witch hunt. No, Cecilia, I said, calm as ice. This is your reckoning. Jasper, silent all meeting, finally stood. What do you want, Eden? I looked him in the eyes. Everything you took, and more. They voted. Jeffrey was removed. Cecilia's power suspended. And for the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes. Not because she was losing her company, because she realized her daughter wasn't afraid of her anymore. Power was never the goal. Control was, and now that I had it, I realized something brutal. Winning didn't feel like freedom. It felt like silence. The boardroom had bent. Jeffrey was out. Cecilia was subdued. Alea was in full control of operations, and I had executive override on all financial decisions through the Meridian Group. But the moment I returned to the penthouse they once evicted me from, now legally purchased under one of my shell companies, I felt the weight of every choice. This wasn't home. It was a battlefield. The mirror reflected a woman sculpted in armor. Sleek ponytail, tailored blouse, no softness left. Not a trace of the girl who once cried when her trust fund access was revoked. I didn't feel powerful. I felt hunted. That night, my burner phone buzzed. Untraceable number, you've made noise. Not everyone enjoys your resurrection. I stared at the message, then deleted it. Let them come. The next morning, Alea dropped a dossier on my desk. Someone's leaking internal strategy files. 2 of our competitor boards had documents only accessible to us. I scanned the data. Jasper's login. Logged in at 3:12 a.m. from inside the Moreaux headquarters. I leaned back. He wouldn't. Alea tilted her head. Sentiment makes you vulnerable. I'm not sentimental. She raised a brow. Then, why haven't we fired him yet? I said nothing. The truth, because part of me still believed he could be saved. 3 weeks later, the headlines hit. Exiled heiress returns, inside the coup at Moreaux and Hartwell. Is Eden Moreaux the shadow CEO of Meridian Group? Insiders claim ruthless takeover sparked by family betrayal. It had started. Within 48 hours, I was subpoenaed to testify about potential conflicts of interest in our acquisition of a small but powerful competitor, Glosspan. A familiar name was behind the investigation, Asher Lemaire, my ex-fiancé, the man who left me at the altar when Cecilia offered him double the partnership in our family firm if he walked away. I hadn't seen him in 4 years. Now he was the special investigator for the FTC. My blood ran cold. The hearing room was packed. The kind of slow-drip media event that fed off silence and scandal. Asher looked almost the same. Sharp cheekbones, frosted cufflinks, the practiced neutrality of a man who measured truth by profit. He stood across the table from me. Miss Morin, he began, using my new name. You understand that operating through shell groups while leveraging inside family information may constitute insider manipulation, correct? I'm aware, I replied calmly, which is why every move was made after my removal from family access. You can verify that timeline. His jaw twitched. Wasn't about ethics. This was personal. I could see it in the flicker of his eye when I crossed my legs and leaned back like I owned the room. Because I did. Later that night, Jasper showed up at my door. He looked wrecked. Dark circles, bruised ego. I didn't mean for the leak, he said. I thought I was helping. By giving strategy documents to our competitors? I said, voice low. He stepped closer. They threatened me. They said they'd expose something I did years ago, when Dad was dying and I made a bad call on a stock sale. They said they'd ruin me, and instead you risked the company? I didn't know what else to do. Silence. Finally, I walked past him and opened the door. You want redemption? Then earn it. We have one chance to turn this around. But next time, if you betray me again, there won't be a third. He nodded, slowly. You sound just like her. No, I said. Dead calm. She would have thrown you to the wolves. I'm still giving you a sword. That night, Alea and I met on a rooftop overlooking the city. This is only the beginning, she said. The real enemy isn't the family. It's who they borrowed from. I raised a brow. Who? She handed me a name, Victor Sands, Russian-born financier, blacklisted in the EU, known for swallowing companies whole. He funded their survival. Now he wants repayment, with interest, and if they can't pay, he'll come for what's valuable, which is... She looked me dead in the eye. You. I had always believed that monsters wore expensive suits and smiled in boardrooms. But Victor Sands didn't smile. He didn't need to. His presence filled the room like smoke, slow, suffocating, and inescapable. The invitation came in a black envelope, hand-delivered. No return address. No sender name. Just an embossed V. Alea stood beside me when I opened it. "You sure about this?" she asked. "No." I folded the letter. "But I don't run anymore." The meeting was set for 9 p.m. sharp. Not in an office. Not a hotel. A private cathedral. Converted, yes, but still echoing with stained glass menace and golden candlelight. A warped mix of power and theater. 2 armed guards searched me for weapons. I didn't flinch. When Victor finally entered, he wore a 3-piece navy suit and a rosary-like jewelry. His pale eyes studied me the way predators assess potential, not with hunger, but calculation. "You are smaller than I expected," he said in a voice that sounded like crushed velvet over knives. "I've been underestimated before," I replied evenly. He grinned. "Then we'll get along." We sat at a long table with nothing but candlelight between us. "You know why you're here," Victor said. "You lent money to my family. Now you want it back?" He shook his head slowly. "I've already taken what they owed. What I want is you..." Silence. "I don't traffic in people," I said. He smiled again. "I don't mean romantically, Eden. You misunderstand me. I want access. You're the most dangerous woman on Wall Street. I want your mind on my team. My European division is bleeding. I want you to plug the wound. And if I say no?" He leaned forward. "I make you watch everyone you care about drown." I didn't respond immediately. That would have been weak. Instead, I asked, "How long have you been watching me?" He shrugged. "Since your disappearance. You vanished clean. That intrigued me. People with money disappear. People with intelligence vanish and re-emerge richer." I sipped the wine he offered. It tasted like risk. "You think fear buys loyalty?" I asked. He tilted his head. "No, but leverage buys time. And time lets me convince you." I smiled. "You should have studied me better." I don't bend. I pivot. I left the glass untouched and stood. "I'll give you an answer in 5 days. No more." 3, he said without blinking. "Then you'll get 3. Back at the penthouse, Alea was pacing. "You're playing chess with a lion." "I know." "Do you trust him?" "No. But I understand him. He wants what he can't control. That makes me powerful. And dangerous." She crossed her arms. "What's the move?" "We feed him a story. Something juicy. Let him think I'm leaning in." "Bait?" I nodded. "Then we buy time. Time to freeze his offshore accounts." Her eyes widened. "That'll start a war." I looked out the window. It already started. To destroy Victor, I needed someone who hated him more than I did. That person was Lucian Drake, former cyberbanker, disgraced for insider trading, publicly humiliated by Victor's firm, then bankrupted. Last known location, Prague. I found him drunk and furious, playing chess in a park with tourists. "You're bold," he muttered, not looking up. "Most people just sue him. Or vanish. I'm not most people." "What do you want?" "A virus," I said. "One that eats through firewalls without blinking." He smiled without warmth. "You want revenge dressed as justice. Fine. But I won't write code for your pride." I placed a USB drive on the table. "Do it for theirs." On the screen, photos of Lucian's sister. One of the thousands Victor had financially obliterated with a false loan scheme. Lucian looked down. "I'll call you in 72 hours. On day 3, Victor called. "I assume you've decided." I spoke calmly. "I have. My offer is simple. You'll get what you want, access to my consulting, but only for 90 days, trial basis. After that, I walk." He chuckled. You're negotiating with a gun to your head? I'm negotiating because I have the bullets. Pause. I like you, he said. I smiled. That's the problem. Click. The virus didn't roar into Victor's empire. It whispered. Lucien called me at 3:47 a.m., Lagos time. It's done, he said. No backdoors, no trace. It's silent, elegant. And once it's in, he won't know what's missing until the accounts are empty or frozen. How long until it starts showing cracks? He exhaled. Depends on how paranoid his chief is. But 3 days. Tops. I stared out my hotel window. I'd left New York behind temporarily, operating from neutral ground. Not to hide, to strike where he'd never expect. Good, I said, voice even. Now we wait. Back in New York, Alea walked into the boardroom at 7:12 a.m. as always. Black coffee, sleek ponytail, tablet glowing. But something was wrong. Her access card failed, twice. Her second-in-command, Ivy Martin, was already inside the room. I didn't authorize a meeting, Alea said. You didn't have to, Ivy replied. Cecilia Moreaux still holds non-executive oversight. She's activated her dormant rights. Alea's jaw tightened. And what exactly is this meeting about? Ivy smiled. About you, about loyalty, about whether you've made yourself replaceable. The knife came cleanly. Ivy had been working with Victor. Alea called me from the parking garage. They're moving against me. Ivy and Cecilia. They've got data logs of internal communications between us and Lucian's offshore firm. My stomach coiled. That's impossible. They had help. Someone from your side. Someone deep. I clenched my jaw. Then it's not just corporate. It's personal. Silence on the line. Then Alea said something I'd never heard from her before. I need you. I paused. I'm on the next flight. By the time I landed back in New York, the company was burning from the inside. Ivy had staged a strategic emergency that forced the board to pause Alea's authority, pending a formal review. The story leaked within hours. Meridian's power duo implodes, Sand's influence alleged behind corporate infighting. I called Jasper. Tell me everything, I snapped. He sounded broken. They're saying Alea forged numbers. That you siphoned money into a Hong Kong shell company. We did, only it wasn't siphoning. It was bait. She's being set up. I know. And then Jasper whispered, I think Ivy's working with Sansa's tech arm. She met with his CTO. I saw them at a gallery weeks ago. Why didn't you say anything? I thought it was personal. It was always personal. Lucien flew in under a false name. He joined me in a cold warehouse near Brooklyn's port. They're trying to scrub the malware, he said, which means they've found traces. But not the source. They're panicking. I nodded. Good. Let them. But you have another problem. There's a new login to your internal comms, not from Ivy. Someone else. Who? He handed me a file. A familiar name burned like acid off the paper, Asher Lemaire. My ex. The one who once worked for Victor, and then turned investigator. You trusted him? Lucien asked. I let him think I did. Alea and I sat in her apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows behind us, the city blinking in silence. She had barely spoken since the vote that morning. They froze me out, she finally said. They framed you. I should have seen it coming. No, I said. You should have had more time. She turned to face me, eyes sharp again. We can't win this quietly anymore. No, I said. Now we play loud. We shook hands. Not as colleagues, as warriors. I vow this, I said. No matter what it costs, I end him, and I burn her, Alea said. It began at 11:06 p.m. One of Victor's secondary Swiss accounts was locked, then another. Within the hour, 3 of his real estate holding companies reported asset freezes. By morning, 5 shell companies disappeared from market registries. He didn't call. He didn't send a message. He sent a body. Lucien opened his hotel door that morning and didn't show up to our scheduled call. Security footage showed him being forced into a black van outside his hotel. The timestamp, 6:13 a.m., Victor had responded, and he wasn't playing anymore. Lucien was gone. No ransom note, no warning. No message, just digital silence. Alea sat across from me, tension in every muscle. Jasper stood by the window, pale and wide-eyed. I checked every feed, I said. Every back channel. Victor wiped it clean. Which means he's not sending a message. He's sending a warning, Alea said grimly. Jasper stepped forward. So, what do? We finish the job, I said. We hit him where he lives. His money, his name, his mask. Because if I back down now, Lucien would vanish forever, and the world would think I blinked. We launched Cassandra at 4:12 a.m. It was more than a virus. It was a social collapse engine. Programmed by Lucien before his disappearance, Cassandra would release selective truths, emails, financial fraud, bribe receipts, drip-fed to news outlets, government watchdogs, and anonymous boards. Not all at once. That would be too fast. It had to feel organic. By 9 a.m., 5 major publications were posting anonymous leaks. Victor Sanz linked to African crypto laundering. Former EU trade officer bribed by Sanz Holdings. Internal audits suggest shell scams in 5 nations. The empire began to sway, but Victor didn't flinch. While Cassandra ran, I dug into something else. A ledger Victor had once used to control debtors. Alea cracked the encryption. It wasn't just a list of enemies. It included our family, names, offshore trusts, fake entities connected to my father's name. That was impossible. He died clean, died fighting Cecilia in court over control of my legacy. I looked deeper and found a transaction. March 2009, $12 million. From J. Moreaux Trust controlled by Cecilia to V. Sanz Holdings, Cayman subsidiary. That was 1 week before my father's fatal car crash. My blood went ice cold. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Alea asked. I nodded. It wasn't just an accident. She answered the door wearing pearls and indifference. I wondered when you'd come, she said, stepping aside like it was a casual visit. I didn't sit. I dropped the ledger on her pristine glass table. Recognize the numbers? She glanced at it, unbothered. You've become dramatic. That payment was made a week before Dad died. She poured herself tea. He was reckless. You know that? No. You were greedy. He threatened your trust, and you sold him. Her eyes snapped to mine. You think I had him killed? I didn't answer. You always did have your father's flair for martyrdom. What will you do? Kill me back? No, I whispered. I'll leave you alive, alone, exposed, powerless. That she didn't smile at. At midnight, a package arrived at my door. No label. No note. Inside, a burner phone, already on. A video played. Lucien, tied to a chair, bruised but alive. His voice strained. Calm, if you're watching this. He hasn't killed me. Yet. He wants your surrender. He wants Cassandra shut down. You've got one move left, Eden. Make it matter. And tell Alea she was right not to trust the silence. The video cut off. There was a second item in the box. Lucien's watch. Broken. Blood spattered. Taped beneath it, a single bullet. Alea stood at the window as I relayed the message. No more shadow games, she said. We go public, I agreed. We burn the entire house down. She turned to me. And if he kills Lucien before then? I looked her dead in the eye. Then we make sure Victor never speaks his name again, because no one will remember him. We posted the first full Cassandra file to every major media platform. Then we made a second vow. If Lucien died, so would Victor. 2 days later, everything caught fire. Interpol issued an inquiry into Victor's European properties. Half his U.S. legal team resigned. A French court reopened an old case tied to an arms deal he'd financed. His crypto holdings tanked 40% overnight. But he sent nothing, said nothing, until a message appeared on a private forum used only by ex-agents and shadow financiers. One word. Enough. Then a second message. Drop location. 3 a.m. alone. 3 a.m. Pier 39, Hudson Terminal. Fog drifted in off the river, curling around floodlights and casting spectral halos on the wet concrete. I stood alone. No phone, no weapons. Just the black coat on my back and Lucien's broken watch in my pocket. Victor had chosen the spot for symbolism. Abandoned. Cold. Industrial. The same place his enemies disappeared from. Permanently. A sleek black car pulled up. He stepped out. Same pressed suit. Same hollow eyes. But this time, no mask of charm. He didn't come to play power games. He came to end them. "You always had the stomach for this," he said. "You just didn't want to admit it. I've seen what becoming you looks like. I'll pass." A flicker of something in his eyes. Not emotion. Calculation. "I give you Lucien. You give me Cassandra's source code. Raw. Editable. Deactivatable." I didn't blink. "And the ledger?" His jaw tensed. "You want to destroy your mother that badly?" he asked. "No," I said quietly. "I want her to live long enough to know she lost." He nodded. A shadow emerged from a second car. Lucien. Limping. Bruised. Alive. "Let him cross," I said. Victor raised a hand. The guards released him. Lucien stumbled into my arms. "Still alive?" he muttered. "Barely." I held him steady. "We're almost done." He looked me dead in the eyes. "You can't give him Cassandra. I'm not—" "What?" I brought him something else. I handed Victor a flash drive. Encrypted. Sophisticated. Impressive. But not Cassandra. It was a shell. A Trojan file looped to a real-time AI-generated simulation that would burn itself clean in 48 hours. Enough to buy us time to launch the final wave. He pocketed it. "You're smarter than they ever gave you credit for," he said. "They didn't want a daughter," I replied. "They wanted a pawn." He turned to leave. "You've made enemies, Eden. Bigger than me." I smiled coldly. "Then I'll make a bigger shadow." Back at the apartment, the real upload began. Cassandra's final payload wasn't just a leak. It was a memoir. A digital reconstruction of everything Victor had done. Backed by video, voice prints, forensic trails. It was wired into whistleblower archives, newsrooms, and the blockchain. Even if they killed me, it wouldn't die. Alea stood next to me as the final percentage climbed. Lucien sat behind us, stitched and recovering. "What happens when this goes live?" Alea asked. "Hell," I said. "But on our terms. Are you ready?" I thought about it. The silence. The betrayals. The girl who once cried outside a grocery store as her last card declined. I've been ready for years. Upload complete. By morning, the world was on fire. News outlets declared Victor Sans a criminal enterprise masquerading as a businessman. Interpol issued warrants. His U.S. properties were seized. A dozen of his allies jumped ship, flipping in exchange for immunity. Cecilia's trust accounts were frozen. Her assets tied up in a class action lawsuit filed by former employees of Moreaux and Hartwell. She tried to flee. Didn't make it past Canada. They found her with 3 suitcases of diamonds and no passport. 1 month later, the board met in silence. Alea now held 48% of shares. I held 42%. Jasper held 10%. We didn't speak of the past. There was too much blood in it. Instead, we spoke of new systems, new ethics, no more shadows, no more secrets. As the meeting closed, Jasper pulled me aside. "You think we're clean now?" I looked at him. "No. But we're finally honest." Weeks later, a courier delivered a package to my new office. No name. Inside, A single sheet of paper in Victor's handwriting. You won the battle, but war is an industry. I stared at it for a long time. Then I lit a match and let it burn. Some ghosts don't need closure. They need a funeral. I never restored the trust fund, never took the company back. Instead, I created something new. Moreaux Strategics, a global network for whistleblowers, women in finance, digital investigators, and survivors of white-collar abuse. I wasn't the bank anymore. I was the fire that taught them to build their own. And if they ever thought they could silence me again, let them try. I'd show them the price of betrayal with interest. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you, truly. This wasn't just a tale of financial revenge. It was a mirror of every silent battle you've fought, of every time someone told you who you weren't allowed to be. You may not come from power, you may not hold their titles, but your resilience? That's your currency. And whether they cut you off, wrote you out, or told you to know your place, this story is your reminder. You write your own worth, so take up space. Stand taller. Build the empire they said you'd never survive without. And when they come knocking, smile and tell them the rate just went up, with strength and fire.